Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. North Korea fires a ballistic missile towards the East Sea. South Korea's military says a week after Donald Trump approved Seoul's plan to build a nuclear-powered submarine in the United States. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says Iran has asked Washington to lift heavy US sanctions and that he's open to talks. Western powers accused Iran of pursuing nuclear weapons, a claim Iran denies. China commissions its third aircraft carrier, Fujian, in a ceremony attended by President Xi Jinping on Hainan Island. The launch strengthens Beijing's naval power amid South China Sea and Taiwan tensions. Peru's Congress declares Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum persona non grata, days after cutting diplomatic ties with Mexico for sheltering ex-PM Betsy Chavez, who faces charges linked to a 2022 coup attempt. And Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces say they accept a US and Arab-backed proposal for a humanitarian ceasefire and are open to peace talks. The 2-year war with the Sudanese army has defied multiple failed truces so far. We begin today with Vietnam. Typhoon Kalmaegi tore across Vietnam's central coast, unleashing fierce winds, torrential rains and massive waves after devastating the Philippines earlier in the week. At least 5 people were reported dead in Vietnam, adding to the Philippines' rising toll of nearly 200. The powerful storm made landfall in Vietnam's Gia Lai province, packing sustained winds of up to 183 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching 220 kilometers per hour. Floodwaters surged through low-lying areas, while landslides and power cuts added to the chaos. Nearly 500,000 people were evacuated, many by boat, as homes crumbled and roofs were ripped off. Rescue teams and soldiers worked through the night to clear debris and restore electricity. The state power company reported 1.6 million customers without power, though service to a third has now been restored. In coastal cities like Danang and Quy Nhon, waves of up to 3 meters battered the shoreline, while in Dak Lak province, trees were uprooted and roads submerged. The Environment Ministry confirmed that 57 homes had collapsed, and more than 3,000 others were damaged. Kalmaegi has brought more than 24 inches of rainfall to some areas. A brutal blow for central Vietnam, which was already grappling with record-breaking floods that killed 47 people last week. Before striking Vietnam, Typhoon Kalmaegi carved a deadly path through the central Philippines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has declared a state of emergency as the nation reels from destruction. In Cebu province, floodwaters, described as unprecedented, surged through towns and cities, sweeping away homes, vehicles and even massive shipping containers. Cebu officials also reported 28 fatalities, underscoring the scale of devastation across the region. Scientists warn that climate change is making storms like Kalmaegi stronger and wetter. Warmer oceans are fueling rapid intensification, while a hotter atmosphere holds more moisture, resulting in heavier downpours. Vietnam, which typically faces about 10 tropical storms a year, has already endured 13 the year so far. The National Statistics Office said natural disasters have killed or left missing 279 people so far this year, causing more than $2 billion in damage. As Kalmaegi moves inland and weakens, forecasters warn of continued heavy rainfall along the central coast, and it is threatening yet more flooding for a nation already battered by nation's fury. Let's shift our focus now to the United States. 3 people were killed in a US military strike on a vessel in the Caribbean. The Trump administration said the boat was linked to drug cartels as part of an ongoing anti-narcotics campaign. The strike has renewed debate in Washington over the legality of these operations. The US military carried out a strike on a vessel in the Caribbean on Thursday, killing 3 people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that the operation was ordered by President Donald Trump and targeted a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization. He added that the ship was trafficking narcotics in international waters and confirmed that no American personnel were harmed. The strike is part of a wider campaign the Trump administration says aims to curb the flow of drugs into the United States. Since September, US forces have conducted at least 17 such operations, destroying 18 boats and killing around 70 people. Donald Trump's administration has amassed a major military presence across Latin America, calling it part of a crackdown on drug trafficking. The US has deployed 6 Navy vessels in the Caribbean, stationed F-35 stealth jets in Puerto Rico, and sent the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group to the region. The US administration officials told Congress that the United States was now in what they called an armed conflict with Latin American drug cartels. They said those targeted were unlawful combatants, allowing the government to conduct lethal strikes without judicial review based on classified Justice Department findings. Human rights groups and several lawmakers questioned that interpretation, arguing that suspected traffickers should face prosecution instead of military action.
So the message all of us should send to the President of the United States is quit engaging in illegal actions in the Caribbean and international waters, blowing up boats and people in an extrajudicial fashion. And when it comes to Venezuela, stop making these threats and amassing military assets off the shore and claiming you somehow have the authority to do that. The Constitution invests the authority to go to war with the United States Congress. That's what this resolution is all about.
And tensions between the United States and Venezuela have grown since the first series of strikes near the Venezuelan coast. Washington has accused President Nicolas Maduro's government of drug trafficking. Maduro has denied these allegations. Earlier, President Trump defended the legality of these operations, saying his administration had the authority to act against cartels in international waters.
Yeah, we have legal authority. We're allowed to do that. And if we do by land, we may go back to Congress. But we have, this is a national security problem. They killed 300,000 people last year, these drugs coming in. They killed 300,000 Americans last year, and that gives you legal authority. We have a national security, really, I will say this, when you look at the people we're dealing with, and we know them, we know the people coming in, we know the boats, we know everything else, we're allowed to do it.
The US has long conducted maritime drug interdiction operations in the Caribbean and Pacific. US Senate Republicans blocked a resolution on Thursday that would have restricted President Donald Trump's ability to launch military strikes without congressional approval. The vote was 51-49, largely along with party lines, with only 2 Republicans joining Democrats in support of the measure. But the recent shift towards direct military strikes marked a major departure from past policy. That focused on arrests, prosecutions and drug seizures, rather than lethal force. Moving on, the United Nations Security Council has voted to lift sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa ahead of his upcoming visit to the White House. The US drafted resolution marks a major shift in Washington's approach to Damascus and follows months of diplomatic discussions at the United Nations. The UN Security Council voted on Thursday to lift sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa and Interior Minister Anas Khattab. The 15-member council adopted the US-drafted resolution with 14 votes in favour, while China abstained. The US ambassador to the UN said this vote sends a strong political signal that Syria had entered a new era since the ousting of Bashar al-Assad.
Colleagues, with the adoption of this text, the Council is sending a strong political signal that recognizes Syria is in a new era since Assad and his associates were toppled in December 2024. There is a new Syrian government in place, led by President Ahmed al-Sharaa, that is working hard to fulfill its commitments on countering terrorism and narcotics, on eliminating any remnants of chemical weapons, and promoting regional security and stability, as well as an inclusive, Syrian-led and Syrian-owned political process.
And at the UN, Syria's envoy said the country aims to become a success story through constructive cooperation with the international community.
The new Syria will be a success story. It will be a shining model that proves that the optimal path in international relations is positive engagement and constructive cooperation. If there are concerns, Syria is fully prepared to address them with sincere intent, based on mutual respect.
But, as mentioned, China abstained, saying the resolution did not adequately address counter-terrorism concerns in Syria.
The resolution, which was just adopted, reaffirms the Security Council's counterterrorism requirements, making it clear that Syria should fulfill its counterterrorism commitments and take decisive action to combat terrorist acts and respond to the threat of foreign terrorist fighters, which include Eastern Turkestan Islamic movement in Syria.
The United States had been pressing the UN for months to ease Syrian sanctions. In May, President Trump announced that Washington would lift its own sanctions, calling it a major policy shift. Al-Sharaa was previously sanctioned for leading Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, a group once affiliated with al-Qaeda before severing ties in 2016. The US removed HTS from its list of foreign terrorist organizations in July, citing a lack of active ties to al-Qaeda. Ahmed al-Sharaa led opposition fighters overthrowing Bashar al-Assad's government in December of 2024, ending 13 years of civil war. His forces reached Damascus in less than 2 weeks, bringing down the Assad family's 5-decade rule. Sharaa, a former HTS commander, had previously faced the US bounty and imprisonment during the Iraq conflict in 2003. Sharaa will meet President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday, the first visit by a Syrian leader to Washington since 1946. Trump earlier described Sharaa as a tough man who had made progress towards restoring stability in Syria. Their meeting follows Trump's comments in Riyadh earlier this year, where he said Syria was showing signs of a new beginning. Syria's foreign minister welcomed the UN decision, expressing appreciation to the United States and its allies for supporting Syria's transition. The UN resolution marked a diplomatic turning point for Syria, nearly a year after the fall of Assad. But questions remain over how Washington will balance renewed engagement with accountability, as Ahmed al-Sharaa, once sanctioned and wanted by the US, is now welcomed in Washington. And moving on to some tech updates. A major deal has been approved by the Tesla board, which was crucial to keeping the world's richest man at the company. On a November evening in Austin, Texas, Elon Musk took to the stage, waving and dancing with a humanoid robot, celebrating what could be the biggest paycheck in human history. Tesla shareholders had just approved a staggering $1 trillion pay package that could make Musk, already the world's richest person, the first trillionaire on planet Earth. Over 75% of shareholders voted in favour of the plan. That's excluding the 15% of the company that Musk already owns. The moment was met with thunderous applause and a simple thank you from Musk, who said he appreciated the support. But this isn't a typical salary. In fact, Musk doesn't take one at all. Instead, his approved compensation comes entirely in the form of stock grants, potentially 423 million Tesla shares awarded over the next decade. To acquire all of those shares, Tesla must reach a market value of $8.5 trillion within the next decade. That's an extraordinary target, more than 6 times the company's current worth, which stands at around $1.4 trillion. For context, Nvidia, the world's most valuable company as of mid-2025, hit a $5 trillion cap recently, becoming the first to achieve this milestone. Musk's final target would place Tesla roughly 70% higher than Nvidia is. The deal is split into 12 equal parts or tranches. The first tranche begins when Tesla hits a $2 trillion valuation. The next 9 tranches would be awarded if Tesla's value rises with increments of $500 billion, going up to $6.5 trillion. Musk would earn the last 2 tranches if the market cap rises by increments of $1 trillion from there. To put this into perspective, if Musk were to achieve it all, he'd effectively be earning around $275 million a day. Musk's net worth is already an estimated $473 billion, owing to his holdings in Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI. Now, a vote to reject the recent pay package could have meant his exit from Tesla's CEO office. The approved pay package would give Musk increased voting power over the company, agreeing to demands that he's publicly made since early last year. And his ownership would increase from about 13% to 25%. But this historic payout doesn't come without risk. Tesla has had a turbulent year, with declining sales, shrinking profits, and growing competition in the electric vehicle market. Still, Musk seems unfazed. He told shareholders Tesla is entering a new era, one that goes beyond electric cars.
We've got the first car that is specifically built for unsupervised full self-driving to be a robotaxi. It's called a cybercab. It doesn't even have pedals or a steering wheel. Yeah. So there's no side view mirrors. There's no So it's very much optimized for the lowest cost per mile in an autonomous mode. And that production is happening right here in this factory, and we'll be starting production in April next year.
Yet, for all the optimism and spectacle, those robots remain prototypes. None have gone on sale, and Tesla's self-driving technology still requires human oversight. For Musk to turn his trillion-dollar dream into reality, he'll need to steer Tesla through its current storm and deliver on promises that so far live only in the future. Because while shareholders have handed him the keys to the world's most ambitious payday, the road ahead is long, the milestones steep, and the clock is ticking. That's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.